2026, this is the Big Sur International Marathon, a super popular one, a great race out there. It is again, a super popular race. It is one of the better ones out there for sure. People usually show up in droves for this one. It is an iconic race. Can't say enough about it. So this race is taking place April 26, 2026, start time 6:45 a.m. We do have a total elevation gain of about 2,200 feet of elevation, so this is no throwaway course at all. It is a definite buster out here. Again, before we dive into everything, make sure you like, subscribe, share if you are interested in some coaching advice, coaching assistance, if you want to break it down individually for you, the athlete, to have better race day success out there. Make sure you reach out down below, and contact info is available there. So, let's dive in here. This is our race course this year. There's a couple things that we need to know before we even dive into it. First, the race course that's listed on their website does a great job of listing all the aid stations that are out there. They also list a host of other things. First, this course is, again, it carries about 2,200 feet of elevation gain. Um, it's not all uphill though. It does have about 2,500 feet of elevation decline, elevation loss out here. So there is a good little healthy mix of everything out here, and with that healthy mix creates a lot of problems. Early on, we do have a steady downhill gradient right through here. That's going to definitely play mind games with us later. We do have a decisive climb 10 to 12 miles right in here. And then we have some late rollers that are essential for you to navigate. So how do we do that? So first, we got to talk about transportation on race morning. Got to take the race day shuttles out there. The buses are provided. I don't believe there's any parking available on this race start, but make sure you double check that. Um, And yeah, biggest other thing before we dive into the course is the on-course nutrition out here. On-course nutrition, they are going to carry noon this year. They're going to have water. They're going to have goos. I believe the goose station is at mile 12.2 and 19, which means you're going to have to carry your own nutrition for the first half of the race, most likely for most people out here. If you don't, it's going to create like a carb imbalance for you if you're used to running with fuel now or you rely on it on other marathon courses up until now. Because you can only get it in two places, you probably are going to have to start with your own, right? Also, not uncommon to see athletes carrying a handheld, especially for the first half of this race because of the things that we just listed there. The noons they're great, they're good, but realize that they only carry it's pretty much just electrolytes in there, right? So there's no carbohydrate, there's no sustenance to it, all right? So it can help you fend off some cramps and things like that, but aside from that, you don't get any calories or carbs or anything that you need. So just keep that in mind as you are rolling on the road there. So this is the kind of a general course that I've created out here. Aid stations on course this year. I have them at mile 2.5, 4.8, 7.8, 10.4, 12.2, 14.7, 16.9, 19, 21.2, 23.0, and 24.5. Again, we do have the goose stations at mile 12.2 and also mile 19, which we've labeled right here. So you can get a good little sense of what's happening. And actually, it's mile 19 right here. So that's a mislabel right there. Not bad for freehand, though. All right, so weather is our next big thing that we're going to tackle out here. So this is our race start. We're going to wrap up the coast here and over here. As we roll through the days, these are just general blanketed examples. You can see that you are going to run kind of into the wind over here on the Pacific, right? And again, it's going to carry two distinct little patterns out here. So the first little pattern is our wind that's going to be coming in this direction, right? Or this direction, either way. Second one, and it has done this every once in a while, it has given or gifted us a tailwind day out here. So the 2 days are run a little bit different out here. If it is a tailwind day, realize that you do have a greater probability to overheat or just feel like it's a little bit hotter than it actually is out there just because there's no evaporative effects from the tailwind there. If it is a headwind, right, the opposite is going to be true. It's going to feel a little bit cooler out there. You're going to be able to, quotations, push a little bit harder than you would like or what you physically were able to and maybe your other training runs if you didn't run into a sustained headwind. So again, keep that in mind as you are creating your own little race day kind of scenarios and training out there. All right. So the weather does play a huge impact out there. Realize you're also going to be moving through little different zones out here, kind of coastal temperate zones. So you're going to start out over here a little bit off the coast and you're going to run towards it. You're going to be running right next to it, right? So running in this area is going to be a little bit different than running all along the coast. And then once you get to the top here, you're going to break off again at the very, very end. So that's not as critical. But realize that you are going to have some slightly different running conditions as the race progresses. So again, watch out for that as the race gets closer and closer. It's just one of the number of nuances that is with this race. Okay, so that's yeah. All right, next thing is it usually has cooler temperatures on this race, right? And usually has a little damper air in the air, right? But with that, that does have the potential to mask some dehydration that you could potentially have on race day. So watch out for underfueling. Underfueling is a major, major cause of not PRs, because this isn't necessarily a PR course for some, but having good race experiences out here. And again, a lot of that is down to the first 12.2 miles not having any official quote unquote aid out there from calories. So make sure you are planning to get to that 12.2 mile aid station as best as you can. All right. So with that, that was a super blanketed, super generic onset of things. Let's dive in a little bit deeper here. So for the first, let's call it from mile 0 to mile 4, right? These areas, it's a net downhill. We're going to have a lot of downhill in this section out here just to show you about how much. And again, these are all approximate here. 4 miles elevation gain is 91. Elevation loss is 550, right? So on this one of 2200 decline, we have 550 in the first 4 miles out here. Average gradient of -2%. What that means is athletes in this section, they typically have the not ability, but the potential to kind of elongate their stride. People are going to start to, reach for the speed, I call it. People are going to start to land on their heels. People are going to start to open up and just open themselves up to some cramping. Okay, make sure you're not doing that. Making sure you're not kind of bounding for the speed. Making sure that you are kind of spinning out there, all right? You might want to really check in with yourself, and a big, big thing that you're going to also have to do is focus on that lean. Most athletes get out there and they just want to feel comfortable initially. This is not a race that you can do that, unfortunately. In this race, you have to lean into the first 4 miles, and that's a figure of speech and also what you're really going to have to do. If you don't, then all those negative things that we just talked about are going to come to fruition, and you are going to have a bad time later on. Just believe me. So a lot of the other breakdowns, right? We talk about from mile 0 to about mile 10. Now, I have a little subsection out here. This is mile 4 to, let's just bring it down over here. There's 2 little subsections in here, but this first little section, we do have a steady undulating uphill section right here. And if we were going to get even a little more nitty gritty during this section, again, 20 or 6, let's call it 1,700 feet of elevation on this one, which is not 100% correct. All right, we do have 300 of those feet of gain and 142 feet of loss. So here, average gradient of 0.4, it's going to just be an annoying one, right? And again, think back to our wind. We're going to start to head into the wind a little bit more, and this is going to be a great headwind section for you. We do have 2 aid stations located here, so there is no real reason to, not top yourself off. If you're getting a little overheated, if it's a tailwind section here, making sure that you're utilizing these aid stations to cool yourself off, even if you're feeling okay out there, right? If it's a headwind, you're flipping it, you're kind of doing the opposite. Maybe you don't need to dump some cool water on you, but in my mind, I would definitely do that even if the temperatures are not sky high out there, But again, I'm a heavier sweater, personal preference here. Now, this section over here, we're going to highlight this. This is kind of the big one that everyone talks about out here. But again, I'm going to flip it on you for a second. And the reason that this second hill is a little more challenging is this little section right through here. So in this section, we do have about 200 feet of elevation loss, almost a mile out here. Pretty much a mile. The The issue with this section is not the difficulty of this section. It's what happens afterwards, right? And so a lot of people set themselves up for failure. Think about those first 4 miles. This is just happening on a much smaller scale. It's all those problems that we talked about are happening right through here, right? We can see what we're about to do, so we start to forget. We start to get nervous. It's like, oh, if I just build enough speed, then I can just motor up this hill. And a lot of athletes get sucked into that. It's a pretty ridiculous example, but it is a true example, right? And so everyone gets very, very nervous during this section. Don't let that be you. Even if we look at the course maps, you could see a nice little downhill right through here. Okay, so let's find my tabs here. So when we hit this section, again, you're going to have to lean into this. You're going to have to commit. And if you can't commit during a -4% slope down over here, then you're going to have to figure out a way to get down it and not explode your quads, not have it eccentrically just annihilate you, right? So maybe you slow down a little bit, maybe you focus on your leaning just at a smaller rate, but whatever you need to do to get down here, you need to do it, right? Because you're going to have your first aid station right when you get up here, so this is kind of coming at the worst possible time for a lot of people. A lot of people stop here, make this hill a lot harder than it is, but if you need water, you need water. There's no way around it, right? Some of those water fill stations. Now, let's talk about the major climb out here, and let's, if I can click it, there we go. All right, our major climb out here is a 2.2 mile distance, 536 feet of elevation gain. Even their website says it's about 500 feet. So in here, this is not aggressively. This isn't crazy, right? It does last for 2.2 miles, and you can see here that it is broken up into some chunks where it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. It's kind of a jagged hill out here. Use those times to kind of recover, and just get up the hill. All right. So when you are in this section, right? This was said to me a couple of years ago now, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but as the years have gone by, this makes a lot more sense. So just think of this as just an interval, right? Have a cap, if you're running with power, it makes it even easier. If you're running with pace, obviously you're going to drop your pace. If you're running with heart rate, same thing, right? Just treat this as an interval, okay? You don't want to totally crush this one. You want to just treat this as a sustained interval, okay? If you do that, you will come out the other side ready to rock. If you come on this section here and you are using this and you're trying to springboard your way to success, realize that you're going to finish this with you're at about the halfway point almost, a little less. So you have a long way to go out here. This is a huge springboard for that. So don't put all your eggs into this basket out here. All right. Make sure you are just motoring this up, get in that low gear, and just get up this thing. All right. Athletes that really struggle on this course are going to surge on this thing up and back and up and back. Right. You're going to find that some athletes fly by you at the bottom, and if you just stick to your pace, you're going to slowly reel them in, or you're going to minimize the damage after you get past the aid station right here. Right. And so you want to avoid that heart rate spiking. You want to just maintain as best as possible up here. Just treat this like an interval. All right. And that's how you're going to get up there. Right. Keep the cadence up there. So maybe shorten that stride and just get up it. All right. All right, so the next little section out here, again, everyone really breaks down this next section from mile 12 all the way to, they call it 21 out here. But what I would do is actually, again, split this into two different scenarios. Scenario number one is right, or sections right here, is very, very critical for us. Very critical. Again, 1.8 miles, you're almost doing the exact same distance, zero point 0.4 less. But again, we do have 400 feet of elevation loss. So it is a huge, huge, huge other issue out here. And again, this is setting you up for failure because if you look at the sections over here, right, we have a number of little risers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in this section here. All right, we have a number of them. So make sure that you are setting yourself up for success in this section here for the later on rollers on this course that are going to kind of just continue to limit your speed is a good way of saying that. All right. So a lot of people really, really motor down this thing. And again, you're going to have to lean into this. A lot of people won't be able to run at a -6% incline. So again, run this thing down there or just slow down a little bit, run a little slower, but watch that overstride. Watch your running form. A lot of athletes at this time in the race, they let the knees go. They let the arms go. They're running in circles with their arms. They're running side to side, just limiting things. And that you're using a lot of unnecessary muscles. You're really bracing, and that cannot end well for most people. All right. So after we move past this section out here, I like to split this one up into two more sections out here. So this next one right here, 8.5 miles, 574 gain, 400 loss. So it's pretty even Steven out here. And with that, again, this is typical running out here. But because of what you did for the first 14.5 miles, this section can seem very, very, very challenging. All right. And again, think back to our major interval section out here. What you want to avoid are the surges up here. So what most people end up doing out here is they surge, 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 and it happens again and again. And then they hit this hill at mile 23 and pop. There they go, right? And then they have to just suffer in for the rest of the day. When you're here, uh, you want to keep that snap that you had at the beginning of the race as best as possible. We do have a lot of hip leaners during this section, right? Because, let's back up here. If we can deselect, there we go. For the most part, right, we've been able to run pretty freely up until this point. This is the most kind of jagged section of the race right here. And with this, you're going to have to run. You're going to have to adjust, to the elevation, right? And a lot of people really struggle late doing this. They struggle with this early, so they really struggle late. So if you are wanting to train up now, trying to run with great form later on, and when you're fatigued in your sessions, it's going to be ideal. So if you have a couple of quick risers that you're able to run just up and down at the end of your runs, that's going to be critical. Videotape yourself running up them, running down them, and as the weeks go by here, you can see, is my form improving or not? What happens after I run 10, 15, whatever, right? And then I run up this little hill here. See what happens to your running form, and you can kind of fix it. It's an easy little hack there. So don't fly through this section out here. These risers are not massive. When we roll over these sections out here, you can see that they are 4.5%, and it's pretty much what you're going to get for a riser out here, but it's not going to last a whole heck of a long distance, right? Longest one of the longest ones is, oh, click the wrong thing here. One of the longest ones is this one right here, coming up to 23, where we have our aid station right on the top, and that lasts not very long. Not very long right there. And again, 4.5 max grade, or 4.9 average is 3.1. And then the last little bit here of our race, we have one, two, and maybe three small risers into our finish line, but this is notoriously difficult for a lot of people out here. This is the kind of the zone where a lot of people fall apart, and it's because of everything that we talked about beforehand, especially the last section. It really destroys a lot of people. So run your race in that previous section, and these will be easy. This is the time to kind of go for it, right? These last 3 miles. If you're feeling really, really confident, really, really good, you've set yourself up for success from 14 on, that is a great opportunity for you to go. Or if you want to just see the first 2 hills through, on that third hill, you can kind of go there, and that limits it to about 9 miles, which is pretty common for when people start to go. All right. So, just to bring it on back, common failures on these first kind of 10 miles is people overstride, people reach for the speed, right? People kind of just fall apart. Make sure your stride is your stride. Shorten it on the downhills. That's going to be a routine theme out here. Crosswinds, you want to maintain that relaxed feeling, that relaxed running. Don't tense up out there into the wind. If you do that, again, you're going to create a whole host of other issues. So make sure you are racing smart. Late rollers and overstriding is going to be very, very, very critical for you, for your success. Most athletes can get to about 15, 16 miles, no problem. But on this course, we do have kind of the worst kind of terrain possible that you can have for most people out there. All right. So again, big things out there. I've lost my notes out here, but I believe the GOO stations are at 12.2 and mile 19, which is going to come about right here. So use those to your advantage. If you can grab more than one, grab more than one. If you're a little low on calories, make sure you're listening to your body out there. It is, again, one of the most iconic marathons out there. If you like what you saw, again, like, subscribe, share. Make sure you reach out down below. I am happy to talk with you on an individual basis about this one. Good luck, everybody, on the 2026 edition of the Big Sur International Marathon. Good luck, everybody.